D. Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzetta Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It is wonderful to have you along for the ride. Oh, my goodness gracious. Vic Fangio is hilarious. He opens his press conference yesterday as a Phillies fan, asking about the magic number for your Philadelphia Phillies to clinch the division. 34, I believe, is where it's at right now. So there you go. And then he also gets into the Cooper DeJean at safety, Cooper DeJean at corner, Cooper DeJean at slot conversation, to which basically he tells you again exactly what he wants to do. Cooper DeJean at safety, yeah, he got some reps there yesterday. Cooper DeJean outside corner, he got some reps there yesterday. Hey, we haven't really seen Cooper DeJean out there. Hey, watch today. Okay. And he gets asked the question again about Cooper DeJean and whether or not anyone else, he would consider anybody else playing nickel in a, non-base formation, nickel formation. And he's like, no. Is there any chance Cooper DeJean plays on the outside in nickel and somebody else plays slot? No. Vic Fangio is, I say it all the time about Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. Jalen Hurts is the quarterback we've been waiting for. Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator we've been waiting for. And I know Jim Schwartz gets a really bad rep for, he had his struggles here. But that defense that did get points and yards run up on them in the Super Bowl was a pretty damn good regular season and, to that point, playoff defense. People just seem to forget that real quick. And as good as Jim Schwartz was, Vic Fangio is that much better and that much more enjoyable. I will absolutely. Also, hey, both obviously love NFL defense, football defenses. You know what else I love? Baseball. That just came to mind because Jim Schwartz is always rolling out the baseball analogies in his press conferences. But he also talked to Vic Fangio. That is also talked about the starting outside corner role other than Cooper DeJean. And when you talk about Adoree Jackson, when you talk about Keely Ringo, remember Keely Ringo? And then you also talk about Jacorian Bennett, who has thrown himself into the conversation now. He's like, yeah, no one's really stepped up and taken that role. I'll let you hear from Vic Fangio on how he broke it down himself coming up in a few. Also, we'll go through some of the loose ends of practice yesterday. Also, Scott Loeffler, I let you guys hear last week from Jalen Hurts about Scott Loeffler, the Eagles' new quarterback coach. Now, Jalen Hurts, and this is the point I was making with you guys last week, Jalen Hurts is the guy, whoever the quarterback coach is, like, what is it you say you do here? That kind of thing. If you're a quarterback coach to Jalen Hurts, he's already had several. He's had several play callers, as we know. This is a guy that's been a runner-up in the MVP contest there during the regular season, the MVP voting. This is a guy that's already a Super Bowl MVP, a two-time NFC champion, a Super Bowl champion. What more are you going to tell him? Oh, and just for extra added fun, he also hangs out with Michael Jordan, and he can text Peyton Manning whenever he wants. So he's already got some good resources and one hell of a resume. So what does Scott Loeffler really bring to the table? Well, last week, Jalen Hurts almost had to gather himself to answer the question about what his relationship has been like with Scott Loeffler and what Scott Loeffler has done for his game already. And I did not expect a 90-second dissertation on how special Scott Loeffler is. And the thing that really raised my eyebrows about their relationship is when Jalen Hurts said that Scott Loeffler told him, my job, speaking of Scott Loeffler, my job as your new quarterback coach is to maximize your ability in this game. If you're going to sell anybody on anything, that's pretty great. That's a pretty strong open. That's a real attention getter, as they say in the public speaking world. That would grab my attention. And yesterday, Scott Loeffler addressed the media. He acknowledged what he's working with in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts as his franchise quarterback, as a starting quarterback. And it was just all about the fundamentals of playing the position. And just no matter what you do, no matter how successful you are, you always got to go back to fundamentals. One of my favorite stories about that is one of our favorite athletes ever to come through Philadelphia, and that's Charles Barkley. And the story goes that Charles Barkley, whenever he'd come back to Philadelphia as a member of the Phoenix Suns or the Houston Rockets or whatever, he would always, this is a guy who's won an MVP and all that stuff, he's having a Hall of Fame career, a gold medalist on. He would, whenever he'd come back to Philadelphia, he'd always meet up with Herb McGee, legendary college basketball coach Herb McGee, the shot doctor, as he's termed, just to, hey, what's my elbow doing? How's my handle? All that stuff. How's my release point? Just to get back to the basics. And that's someone that obviously had a Hall of Fame career. These athletes that really do want to be great, and Jalen Hurts truly is one of those athletes that not only wants to be great, wants to continue to be great. They're always fine-tuning things. You can learn and pick up things from anybody. So Scott Loeffler coming here, who's not just anybody. He's got an impressive resume as well. He comes to Philadelphia saying, there's some things that, we just want to get back to basics. There's some things that we want to make sure we're doing, like keeping our eyes downfield. We're also diagnosing the defense. We're reading protections better. We're shifting protections better, all that. We want to make sure that we're doing that as a quarterback. That's music to my ears, because that also shows a sign of truly, because I know still people don't buy into what Jalen Hurts is selling because he speaks in motivational posters, but he truly wants to make sure he is maintaining a level of play that can help his team win a Super Bowl each and every year. So Scott Loeffler is charged with making sure he stays on track with that, of course. So we'll revisit that conversation. And then last night, oh my goodness. Last night was exactly what you needed as a Phillies fan. Last night is what you should have gotten from Aaron Nola in his first start. It's like what you wanted to get in Sunday's game against the Washington Nationals. You wanted to get a warm hug. You wanted to get, hey, you know what, Zach Wheeler, he's done for the year. This lineup is mashing. You got Aaron Nola back on the hill. All right, Aaron, make me feel fine. You lose Zach Wheeler, let me know I'm getting another arm in this rotation that's going to go out there and dominate. Let me know that. And he didn't get that. Last night, they're scoring runs. And Rangers being dominant. I'll say, look, you look at the box score after the game, and you go 6 2/3, 2 runs. Okay, good job, Ranger. It would have been such a difference just if you really watched it. He was so worthy. So worthy of 7 innings of 1-run baseball. You can even argue scoreless, but there's no doubt in the 7th inning, he lost it a little bit, a lot. Every batter, the first 3 batters he faced all went to full counts. Then he gave up a solo home run as the third batter there, and then hit a guy. And, of course, that guy comes around scoring on a Jordan Romano 3-run home run. Well, surrendered by Jordan Romano, that is. So I felt bad for Ranger that he didn't get to walk off the mound after 7 scoreless, but he did get quite the ovation from the Citizens Bank Park faithful, who no doubt were antsy to see their team after a 10-game road trip and antsy to celebrate with them after they put up 12 runs in this game. Not too bad. But Ranger was great last night. Make no mistake about that. And then the offense for the second straight game scores in double digits. 21 hits. Trey Turner has 5 RBIs, 4 hits, gets his average back up to 295. Bryce Harper blasts 2 home runs. Bryce Harper now is 20. He his 20th and 21st home runs of the season last night. I would love to see Bryce Harper get to the 30 home run mark. I would love to see that for him, especially when you consider he missed about a month. Didn't play for 28 days. It was almost a month. And then he also was dealing with the injury, trying to play through it. So he wasn't 100% for all that time. I'd love to see him get back to that 30 home run mark. I'd love to see it for him. Each home run he hits last night goes over 440 feet. 440 on the first one, 448 on the second one. Just blast off. JT Realmuto homered. Trey Turner, by the way, of the RBIs and hits, I didn't even mention, his first home run at Citizens Bank Park this season. Yeah, I'll take that. That's pretty awesome. And they beat a playoff caliber team in the Seattle Mariners. And I'll also tell you another thing. The Phillies' arms, whether it was Ranger Suarez or Ryan Kerkering, they kept Cal Raleigh at bay. And then how about the kid, Nolan Hoffman, coming in to make his Major League debut, gets his first strikeout, allows 3 runs. And then he strikes out Cal Raleigh to end the game. What a way. What a way to make your Major League debut. You bookend your inning with strikeouts. And in between, you allow 3 runs. Okay. You'll fit in nicely here in that Phillies bullpen. Shouldn't say that. They've been great as of late. So, yeah, awesome. Just awesome game. And it was buzzing at Citizens Bank Park. It was one of those games that, you could feel it coming through the television. Also, Zach Wheeler, successful surgery, which is great to see. Procedure, I think the press release said. So that's great. I'll let you hear from Bryce Harper after the game, talking about not just coming home, but also Zach Wheeler and how the clubhouse is thinking about their ace in Zach Wheeler. All right, let's get into Vic Fangio yesterday. As we know, there is a battle going on at the outside corner position opposite Quenyon Mitchell. So yesterday, Vic Fangio, one of the first questions in his press conference is about the cornerback position. And if anybody is really distancing themselves from anyone else to take the starting reins for the CB2 spot.
Not yet. I think all the guys are pretty even right now. And Ja'Cory just got here, got a full week last week. Need to give him a full opportunity with the other guys.
Are you disappointed at all that no one has just run away with that job?
Well, not really. I mean, they're close, Usually it does become pretty obvious to everybody as to who's going to win the job. That hadn't happened yet. I think they all have done a good job in and of their own way. Had good moments, not so good moments. So we haven't reached that conclusion yet.
All right. Here's what I have picked up. And it's out there. Like, it's in the colors, Keely Ringo's out. He's lost. It's not as Tyler Steen is definitely your starting right guard. It's not there yet, but it is quickly approaching that spot. Keely Ringo, game 1, game 2, did not look like an NFL cornerback. Certainly not an NFL starting quarterback. Adoree Jackson got the vast majority of the snaps there in the first half. He got the vast majority of the snaps there yesterday. Ja'Cory Bennett played a great game against the Cleveland Browns. A great game against the Cleveland Browns. Makeup speed, the 4.3 40 time speed was certainly on display in that game. I mentioned this, like I was saying it as a compliment because he got beat. And I never say that that's not a compliment that he got beat. Yeah, he got beat on the move and then caught up to the rest of the route and broke up a play or two. Like he really did a great job in that preseason game to say, no, I'm here. I'm here. I'm not just a camp body. I'm not just a depth piece. I'm here. I'm competing. I want that job. So for me, it really comes down to Ja'Cory Bennett, and it comes down to Adoree Jackson. But Keely Ringo looks like he is absolutely the odd man out. And I noticed this from Tim McManus yesterday, putting this out there on social media. Notable change. Did not see Keely Ringo receive any first-team reps. Adoree Jackson with Cooper DeJean moving to the outside in base looks. Just like Vic Fangio told us about a month ago. Actually, it was more than that. It was mini camp that he first really talked about it. So this is going to carry over. We got one more preseason game coming up. The hallowed preseason game against the New York Jets. That's where we're at. But I think you look at the outside corner spot opposite Quenyon Mitchell. Adoree Jackson, Ja'Cory Bennett are going to get that opportunity. Now, when I say, base coverage, again, you're going to have Cooper DeJean step out there. In nickel, you're going to have Cooper DeJean try to dominate the slot and maybe even play a little safety. And then you're going to see, most likely right now, Adoree Jackson and then Ja'Cory Bennett get reps out there. And that's the way these cards have fallen. That's the way these cards have been dealt right now. The thing that I do find interesting, though, is that Vic Fangio said early in training camp, the bar that you have to reach if you're a corner and you want to play in this defense, the bar is Cooper DeJean. If you want to play on the outside, you got to be better than Cooper DeJean. If you want to play on the outside in base coverage, you got to be better than Cooper DeJean. So far, no one's better than Cooper DeJean. You want to be a nickel corner, and then you got to be better than Cooper DeJean. The only thing that makes a little bit of sense is him not playing that much safety. Vic Fangio, as you would assume, didn't really go on to gush about Ja'Cory and Bennett's start and the 2 interceptions that he picked up against the Cleveland Browns. But this is what he did say. He said each of the play was its own entity. Interception, obviously a good play and a great play on their part. But that's not our problem. And he says, when you have an opportunity to make a play, you got to catch it and run with it. And he did that. Yeah, he took it to the house, man. It was awesome. And he did say some guys have a knack to make a play and a play of those in bunches. And he was able to make that play on the 2nd and 11 as well. So you're not going to get Vic Fangio gushing too much. But he did acknowledge that, similar to what Vic Fangio, or assuming what Nick Sirianni had said a bunch of times already, including yesterday or 2 days ago now, that Drew Makuba just has the knack for being around the football and getting that football. He's got a knack for being a ball hawk. So you saw that in preseason game number 2. So good for him on that. So I look forward to seeing what the rest of this week breeds, especially taking on the New York Jets on Friday night, by the way. Friday night. Preseason game number 3, the final one, the final audition, 7:30 start time. The other thing that I found interesting yesterday was that the challenge had been put out there for the edge rushers to really step up and show who really wanted to be on this team. Azeez Ojulari, I mentioned it yesterday, got beat on that reverse. That's a terrible look. Later in the game, he comes back and he gets a sack. Vic Fangio was asked about that yesterday. And he says, of the guy that just made a big play in the game, Azeez Ojulari, yeah, he's coming. Made a nice play the other day on the rush. He's coming. Nothing is ever you never hear Vic Fangio. I'm not asking for him to do this, but you never hear Vic Fangio get excited about a play. And this it reminded me of Vic Fangio from last year. Last year, the question was about Nolan Smith. And truth be told, I had zero expectations for Nolan Smith. My big concern was his shoulder. He had talked about how his shoulder, quote, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's like his baby. That's what he said. I don't understand what the reference was to a baby, but okay. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm like, first round pick. This is interesting. So I didn't have high expectations, and nor he really didn't do anything to impress in his rookie year. So going into his sophomore season in the NFL, I wasn't expecting anything. Hey, what were your expectations for Nolan Smith? Nothing. I wasn't expecting anything. Anything he gave you that was positive, I thought, okay, gravy. You got it. But then after the bye week, we've all talked about Cooper DeJean coming in as a starter. We've talked about Saquon Barkley. We've talked about the team meetings and all that. One of the things we've rarely discussed, unfortunately, is Nolan Smith's meteoric rise to being one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, especially in win rate, since week 6. Week 6 on. And then, what was it, week 11 or 12? They play the Rams. You lose Brandon Graham after the great season he was having. And people are like, well, who's got to step up? Well, then, at that point, realizing how good Nolan Smith had been, going, all right, well, he made me eat crow on that. I'm not going to eat more crow. I'm full. I got a belly full of crow. Thank you, Nolan Smith. So he goes out there, and what does he do? He takes his game to the next level. I said, Nolan Smith's got to be the guy that steps up in place of Brandon Graham. Everyone loves, he's just so much like Brandon Graham because he smiles a lot. Well, how about be like Brandon Graham because you play well, really well? And Brandon Graham was having an all-time career season the way he was playing. Nolan Smith came in, got more reps, stepped up his snaps, and looked every bit of a first-round pick, if not more, in the way he played this last season. I'd love to see him take that other step forward. So Nolan Smith had that progression. So the thing I remember, though, about Vic Fangio and Nolan Smith last year, and this kind of went into my idea of, I'm not expecting much from this guy, was Nolan Smith had a sack against the Ravens in the first preseason game, and Vic Fangio was like, yeah. Hey, Nolan Smith made that play where he got the sack there. What do you think? He's like, yeah. He was unblocked. And then I guess he caught himself maybe being a little bit too real, maybe a little bit too harsh. and was like, well, you still got to make the play, and he made the play. You got to make the tackle, and he made the tackle. But he was unblocked, see? And that kind of tough love mentality from Vic Fangio, that is him. And now he's going to give it on Azeez Ojulari because, yeah, of the sack, he made a nice play. He's coming. He's coming. Okay. All right. Thank you, Vic. Keep on bringing it, please. The only other thing that really jumped out to me about his press conference yesterday and things he had to say was Zach Bond being out there with Jihad Campbell and how Jihad Campbell's game will rise, or how he'll kind of look. He alluded to looking at Jihad Campbell to see whether or not his game will rise with Zach Bond no longer being a limited participant, like really being out there in full go, and how much that'll raise the game of the Eagles rookie Jihad Campbell. Also, liked what he saw as far as getting in the backfield and making that sack in preseason game number 2, and how he just continues to progress. So that's really what I picked up. Mainly Cooper DeJean, Azeez Ojulari, and still no definitive starting corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell. But like everything else, as Vic Fangio says, it's coming. It's coming. Yesterday, your Philadelphia Phillies, they went out there and they took on the Seattle Mariners. The Phillies just got back from a road trip. We were waiting to see what kind of Phillies team we were going to see, whether or not they were going to be a team that was going to struggle like they did against the Nationals to only split a series, or whether or not they're going to be a team that could beat a playoff caliber team in Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, and the Seattle Mariners. They put on a hurting yesterday against the Mariners. And here's what I've really liked about the last last two Phillies games. They've allowed another team to creep back into it and then squash their hopes and dreams. Nationals, of course, came back to tie the game at 6 after the Phillies were up 6-0. And then the Phillies just tacked on a bunch more runs, got to 11-6. And then they crushed their hopes a little bit in that one. And then Max Lazar's like, hey, you want more hope? Here's more hope, Washington. And then Joan Duran came in and just slammed the door on that. So that was good. Yesterday, the Phillies go up 6-0. The Mariners start to creep back into it. Actually made it 7-1 and 7-0, and then make it 7-4. That was terrible. And then the Phillies tack on 4 more runs, 5 more runs actually, get to 12. Squash the hopes and dreams of the Seattle Mariners. They kept adding on, is what I'm telling you. It wasn't just one big inning. It was actually a couple big innings with a solo home run for Bryce Harper in between. That's the sign of a great ball club, that they just keep on adding on. Seen that over the last 2 games, albeit one of them against the Washington Nationals has been a sight for sore eyes considering the news with Zach Wheeler. Now, in case you missed me say this yesterday, the Zach Wheeler news is obviously terrible. And it's terrible from both aspects. One, you're not nearly as good a baseball team without Zach Wheeler. And the other, and more serious matter here, is that he's a human being. He's a father. And blood clots are nothing to go, oh, he'll be fine, just bounce back. No, like, take your time. Do everything right. Baseball is a distant second to anything else you have going on right now. So you take care of you, Zach Wheeler. So you want to see somebody else still. When you lose a talent like that, you want to see somebody else step up and tell you, hey, it's going to be okay. Well, 12 runs kind of helps you go, it's going to be okay. And by the way, Logan Gilbert, who started yesterday for the Seattle Mariners, this is a guy who a little less than a month ago shut out the Brewers, for crying out loud. He went 6 1/3 scoreless innings against the Brewers. That's not bad. That's pretty damn good. So to just rack up the runs on him yesterday, he had a 3.30 ERA in that range coming into yesterday's game. So he wasn't some god-awful pitcher. And the Phillies just teed off on him yesterday. And it was a lot of fun to follow that game as it went through yesterday. The second inning, Phillies get a 6-run second inning. They're up 6-0 again for the second straight game in the sixth inning. In the second inning. By the time the second inning was out, every Phillies starter had a hit. Every Phillies starter had a hit. First time since 1920, you could say that about the Phillies. The second inning, Every starter had a hit. They had 21 hits in total in this game. Max Kepler got the Phillies on the board first with an RBI single, and then Stott, Kepler again. Kepler scores on later in the game. Real Muto hits a home run. The thing I loved about the JT Real Muto home run yesterday was in the first inning, JT Real Muto had a 10-pitch at bat. He got 4 straight sliders in that at bat as the last 4 pitches of that 10-pitch at bat. The 4th slider of the 4 in a row, the 10th pitch of the at bat, I was sure JT Real Muto was getting a fastball. He got the slider again. I think JT Real Muto was sure he was getting the fastball again. He got the slider again, low and away. He chased it, and he struck out. But still, a 10-pitch at bat. So this time, against Logan Gilbert, again, he gets a 9-pitch at bat. And as the 9th pitch of the bat comes to the plate, a 3-2 slider, he goes, he's not going to fool me again with that slider. And he doesn't fool him again with the slider. He puts that 3-2 slider over the middle of the plate, and JT Real Muto belts it 404 feet to left field, just under Harry the K's. How about that? Prior in the inning, I skipped over him again. Trey Turner, 3-run home run, first home run. August 18th, yesterday, August 18th, Trey Turner gets his first home run of the season at Citizens Bank Park. How about that? That one was 365. Not necessarily a wall scraper, but it was a couple rows back. There you go. Anyway, Phillies have a 6-0 lead. Then, unfortunately, the offense goes a little flat till the 6th inning when Bryce Harper hits a mammoth 440-foot home run. That one coming with 1 out after Kyle Schwarber struck out looking at a changeup. Bryce Harper steps up, puts him in the right center field, 440 feet, just belts that sweeper that was out over the middle of the plate. You can't put that there. He took care of business there. Then in the 7th inning, they start to creep back into this game. The Mariners do, as I mentioned. Garver steps up. Look, 3-2 to Suarez. Suarez to Suarez, 3-2 pitch, strikes him out on a curveball. Naylor steps up there. He gets in the ground out to third on a 3-2 pitch. Garver, steps up there. He hits the home run to left center field on a 3-2 cutter that traveled a long distance. Let's just put it that way. So now it's a 7-1 game. Then he faces Canzone, and he hits him with a sinker. He takes his base. Suarez is then out of the game. Romano comes into the game. Romano gives up a single to Crawford and then gives up the 3-run home run to Young. One of those runs is charged to Ranger Suarez, who, by the time his book was closed on the night, 6 2/3, no walks, 1 hit batsman, 4 hits, I believe it was in last night's game, and 2 runs. 10 strikeouts, by the way. Now it's a 7-4 ball game. Now you're talking about another game where you're up 6-0, and then Johan Duran's got to come in. You don't want to see that happen. And guess what? It didn't, because in the bottom of the 7th inning, the Phillies offense was right there. Trey Turner, an RBI double, Kyle Schwarber, an RBI single, and Bryce Harper steps up, gets a 1-1 changeup out over the middle of the plate, and he tattoos this baseball. 448 feet, a 1-1 changeup, demolished it. 20th and 21st home runs of the season last night for Bryce Harper. Phillies take an 11-4 lead. They take on another one for 12. The newcomer, the 28-year-old Nolan Hoffman allows 3 runs to score, but Phillies had it covered. They had built up enough of a lead to withstand that, and the Phillies get the win. Phillies also pick up a half game on the New York Mets. They're 5.5 games up in the NL East. This game, I'll refer to it as a warm hug from the Phillies. With the news of Zach Wheeler, with the struggles in D.C. of just splitting with the Nationals, and also the Mets being idle last night. You want to put a little bit more space between you and them? You did that. And you did it in great fashion. My only thing was, hey, you know what? Yeah, Hoffman, just keep allowing some runs. Give the fans at Citizens Bank Park a little bit more of a thrill. Have Johan Duran have to come into this game. Let's go. I kid, of course. I kid. Bryce Harper, after the game, was asked about coming home after the road trip, putting on this kind of offensive display, and also his buddy Zach Wheeler, his status and how the team is behind him.
Yeah, we're excited to get back. Obviously, that road trip was pretty long. Had a tough night in Cincinnati and then get to D.C. and play that day. And a lot of things happened on that road trip. And then we get to D.C., Will's throws, and again, then we get the news that he's in the hospital and getting tests done and all that kind of stuff. And we love Zach, man. He's one of our guys in here. He's one of our leaders, one of the heartbeats that makes us go every fifth day. He's been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball the last 5, 6, 7 years. So it's irreplaceable, man. And you start thinking about not just the game, but his family and his kids and everything else. It's bigger than this game, and know everything went well today, so that's good. But definitely going to be missed in here. But we just want him to get better and feel better, and know that he knows that we have his back, and whenever he comes back in here, to play or to pitch or anything else, we're going to welcome him with open arms, and we just want to get better and be Zach.
There we go. Everything he said, I mean, that's, I think, how most people are thinking about this right now when it comes to Zach Wheeler. But as far as just the atmosphere at Citizens Bank Park yesterday, I mean, you gave the fans a lot to cheer about. You gave the fans a lot to be excited about. You hit 4 home runs as a team between Turner, Real Muto, and Harper hitting 2. That'll get the fans going. The mammoth blasts that Bryce Harper hit, that'll get the fans going. And then Ranger Suarez lost in a 12. When you look at 12-7, you don't think, oh, somebody dominated from the hill today. No, you don't think that. So just to distill this even further, quite literally everything was working for your boy Ranger Suarez last night. 10 strikeouts. That was my elbow, by the way. 10 strikeouts on the table. Yeah. 10 strikeouts. 5 by way of the curveball, 2 by way of the fastball, 1 by way of the slider, 2 by way of the sinker. I think I got all those. Yeah. Most of them came with him up or even in the count. 0-2, 1-2, 1-2, 0-2, 1-2, 2-2, 2-2, 2-2, 1-2, 3-2. The only strikeout that came on a full count was the curveball to Suarez in his in the 7th inning, his final inning of the game. That's pretty damn good. I never look at velo. I never look at velocity for Ranger Suarez. I just look to see if he's hitting his spots. And yesterday he was absolutely hitting his spots. I have been nervous about Ranger Suarez because I have heard rumblings about him not staying in shape throughout the season. We all have heard rumblings about not staying healthy in a season. So if it hits the wall rather hard when it comes to Ranger Suarez. Maybe the last 5 starts with an ERA north of 6. Maybe that's behind him now. As I said when I started the show today, this was the warm hug we wanted from the Phillies 2 days ago with the Nationals, with Aaron Nola making the start. Unfortunately, he only gave you 2 innings worth of a warm hug and then got 1 out, and that was terrible. So Ranger Suarez having one of his best starts of the season, that was great. That was absolutely great yesterday. The other thing was, I don't think that there's anything cooler than Ranger Suarez fielding a baseball. I mentioned this last night on Postcast, but a lot of you guys know I'm a big Frank Sinatra fan. And I don't know if you guys ever saw the Frank Sinatra picture of him getting off the helicopter with a glass of Jack Daniels. And it says, the meme, it's like, you may be cool, but never be as cool as Frank getting off a helicopter with a glass of Jack. That kind of thing. You might be cool, but you'll never be as cool as Ranger Suarez fielding a baseball. I literally wrote it in my notes. His first putout, his first G1 from yesterday, it was against the Rosarena in the 3rd inning. And I had never seen this before, and even by Ranger Suarez's standard. Now, what he did in Cal Raleigh in the 4th inning, I think it was, yeah. It was typical Ranger. 4th inning, he just fields Cal Raleigh's comebacker, yawns, smokes an entire cigar, and then wings it over to first base, no problem. We've seen that before from Ranger Suarez. That is typical Ranger Suarez. Nothing impresses me about that. I've seen it before. But his play in the 3rd inning, for the 3rd out of the inning, he gets the comebacker, a little bouncer from a Rosarena. I think comebacker's a little too dramatic, but a little bouncer back to him, right? Ranger Suarez gloves it. And as he continues to walk off the pitcher's mound and off the field to the dugout, he just takes the baseball and just flings it over to first base and just keeps on walking. I've never seen that before. and he made it look pretty damn cool. It was like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about him being confident today. He's rather confident. He's got everything working. And that was, of all the cool plays Ranger Suarez is, and when I say cool, I don't mean like this dude is, like, I don't know, the hippest cat in town. There you go. I mean, that just as cool as the other side of the pillow, as the great Stuart Scott used to say. And that's Ranger Suarez. But anyway, 6 2/3. Allowed 1 run while in the game, charged for 2 in total. That's the way that one went down. Phillies pick up the 12-7 win. They're back at it today. Another 6:45 start time against those Seattle Mariners. That'll get underway against 6:45. Phillies 72-53 now in the season. As I mentioned, 5.5 games up on the New York Mets in the NL East. Things are looking good in that situation, and things are looking even better tonight because Christopher Sanchez will be on the hill, looking to bounce back from a little bit of a rocky start his last time out there. He'll get the ball tonight against the Bryce Miller, who's also making his first start in quite some time, 2 months actually. He was dealing with an injury. Bryce Miller, right-handed pitcher, 2-5 in the season with a 5.73 ERA. Christopher Sanchez, 11-4 with a 2.45 ERA. You know, it would be a real big warm hug. Another big offensive night. I don't need to give me 7 runs today. Give me a 7-2 Phillies victory. Hey, Christopher Sanchez, I'll give you 2 runs. Give me a 7-2 Phillies victory today, and that'll make me feel real good about life. Real good about life. Before I get into the chat check, hey, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Game Time app has you covered. So download the app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Don't forget about Game Time Picks. Game Time Picks feature is fantastic. You know what that does? It filters out all the fluff, so you get right down to it. The best seats at the best prices on the Game Time app. How about PHL Sports Nation? Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs at phlsportsnation.com. Before I get into the chat check, Bryce Harper. You know what he reminded me of last night?
Like a predator with some ice skates running through the grass.
Thank you, Cam Jurgen. All right, let's get into the chat check and see how you wonderful people are doing. Rye, good morning, Farzy and friends. Smells like a 3rd championship is very realistic. Hell yeah. Cousin, what's up, cousin? Jason A, hello. Morning. Jeremy Von Skyber, hello. No one is better than DeGene, says Jason A. That can confirm. Can confirm no one's better than Cooper DeGene right now. He's coming in hot, and he's staying that temperature. And here's the other thing. I do want to say this. I didn't say this when I was talking about the cornerback competition. Here's why I'm not worried about the cornerback position. I'm not worried because Quinyon Mitchell is going to travel and take on the best wide receiver of the other team. Cooper DeGene is going to be out there in base coverage. So if you're a starting outside corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell, there's a lot of opportunities there where you could be getting the 3rd best wide receiver if that even comes into play. So the snaps for the outside corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell for CB2, essentially, they're not going to be drastic. It's going to be contained. So I feel pretty good about that. Thomas, cousin, looking like Ringo doesn't have the makings of a varsity athlete. I would love to see Howie Roseman consult Uncle Junior. What do you think? He doesn't have it. Sean Gillespie, good morning. Jerry Von Skyver, I think it's time to DFA Jordan Romano. 9 home runs and 40 innings pitched. Bye-bye. It ain't there, man. It ain't there. The only thing is, and granted, he's a right-handed pitcher, but then you're going to have Jose Alvarado come back and not be back. And he's going to go away. Even then, do you rely on Jordan Romano? Absolutely not in the postseason. No way. Jeremy Von Skyver, Topper makes 2 defensive replacements in the 9th, but leaves Casty out there. Casty shouldn't be out there late in game. I mean, I don't like Max Kepler isn't that good either. That's my only thing. Plus, it was a blowout. You're only going to make waves with Nick Castellanos, and I don't need that right now. Jason Jurgens, there you go. Jackson Gosman, hello. If Cooper goes outside, who takes the slot? Slot to me is hard to find. Well, you're right. It is harder to find. But no, but that's not happening. That's all. Cooper is only going outside in base coverage, so there is no slot. In nickel, Cooper goes back to nickel. He goes back to slot. And then that's when you have the other outside corner not named Quinyon Mitchell and not named Cooper DeJean. So that's the plan right now. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. My name is Mark Farzetta. A blast with you guys as always. Be back with you guys later today with Locked On 76ers. Also back with you guys tonight with your Locked On Phillies postcast. So make sure you guys check me out on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel, Locked On 76ers, and Locked On Phillies as well. Coming up later today, Birds 365 on Jacob Media. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to all. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Take away the scoreboard.
Thank you.